a risk when you asked Vincent to do it. I didn't see his script beforehand. As I said, he and I attended a launch recently, and Sean O'Rourke was doing the launch, and he turns to Sean before Sean goes up to do the launch to the book by Peter Murton, a former colleague, and he says, just 2 words, just 2 words, buy it. So I wasn't sure whether he was going to do that here tonight. I had no idea what he was going to say. I wouldn't even dare ask Vincent in advance what he was going to say, but I must sincerely apologise to the Lord Mayor of this great city for the manner in which he was greeted when he came up here initially to the event. But I should have explained to Vincent too why we're here. And indeed I haven't explained to James, who I never met before tonight, his permission and allowing us to use the room. In 2018, there was an event called Dublin Honours Magdalens. And the Magdalene women were brought from all over the world, literally, and were hosted to an event in the Mansion House, in the round room of the Mansion House, to a big banquet in City West. And on one morning, they all came in here to talk to students from UCD, led by Catherine O'Donnell, Dr. Catherine O'Donnell. And it was closed, but I got access. And there was 2 ladies who were sitting just down there now, in that corner of that portrait. And I just sat talking to them, and we spoke for about an hour. And it transpired that the 2 of them had been in a Magdalene laundry in Cork together 60 years before. And they happened to sit down coincidentally, completely without knowing each other. And one said to the other, what's your name? And she said, oh, I'm Christina. And what's your name? I'm Anne. And the one man said, oh, I knew a woman called Christina. I used to be in a Magdalene laundry in Cork, and she was there. She was, that was me. She had left that Magdalene laundry at the age of 16 and went to England. But the woman called Anne hadn't. And she outlined what had happened to her. She was moved around from laundry to laundry, eventually back to Cork again, and escaped at the age of 34. I met a man who took pity on her, bought her a meal, and suggested that she'd be better off going to Dublin, getting away from Cork. So she got the train to Dublin. And she slept rough for about 3 or 4 nights, out of which she got pneumonia. And she was taken to St. Vincent's Hospital, where she recovered and then was sent to the Linden nursing home to recuperate. She had no money, so they couldn't keep her on, so they employed her as a cleaner. And she was talking away there about this for a while, and then this man came in from Blackrock College, where he was working in the kitchens. He'd been in Artane as a young fella. He'd broken his leg, and he was recuperating there, and they met and they married. But what really struck me about it, and she didn't say it, I just remembered, this is the early 70s, I said, didn't Devil Airwood die there? She said, yeah, he was there. I thought, my God almighty, what a story about 20th century Ireland. Devil Airwood, who was the personification of it in the nursing home, but this woman was sent in for recovery from Magdalene experience or whatever. And she was there, and I said, okay, for the launch of this event, I'm going to try to get this room. And if I never explained this to James or to his colleagues, they didn't know. She said, I'm going to try and get this room, and if I get this room, I'm going to invite as many abuse survivors as I can to come here. And they're here tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Led by the Queen herself, married, one of her women, this quiet, shy, reserved woman who has challenged bishops, challenged cardinals, challenged the Pope himself because of the lack of importance which they were treating the issue of child sex abuse, and indeed resigned in frustration in 2017 from the Vatican after 3 years because even the Pope couldn't deliver when the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith was concerned on child protection. And now what do? What they always do, they've changed the name to something else as if that was changed the reality. But Mary is an outstanding person. Another one, Mark Patrick as well, Mark Patrick Vincent. Mark Patrick and I worked 10 years ago on a story about his abuse by Henry Maloney in St. Mary's in Rathmines. And the man who abused Mark was moved to Sierra Leone. Mark made contact with men in Sierra Leone who had been students there at the time to expose what this guy did out there, but he didn't come back here, and that's how the spirits related to all of this. And of course, there wasn't a whisper about Black Rock. Not a whisper back then. 10 years later, Black Rock explodes. I can't explain how, in that 10-year period, the spirits could remain so quiet about the shocking events that we now know have taken or did take place in Willow Park and in Black Rock itself. And here as well, I can't see you. Where are you, Darren? I'm blind. This is the man who named chapter after. He was dealt with by Tony Roach. Great guy. Extraordinary human being to survive what he was put through as a child. He had great support, and one man, I suppose, that Garran would be the first to thank for that if he was still alive, was Ivor Brown. And Garran was at Ivor's bedside when he died last January. I mean, this awful story has produced some great people, inevitably as well. And I'm so grateful for so many of you who are here tonight. I never expected a turnout of this magnitude from colleagues and former colleagues, from editors I've had the great pleasure of working under, one I have the great pleasure of continuing to work under, from news editors. I have the greatest colleagues, I have to say, because everybody thinks this is about the wrong colleague, but I do have terrific colleagues in the paper. I feel privileged to have worked with the Irish Times. I did not lie when I went for this job. I told them straight up, as you would know if you read the book, and I wondered, did he? I told them I was agnostic, but I said, would you appoint a Religious Affairs Correspondent, a member of a political party as a political correspondent? And also there are colleagues from across the political spectrum, like Charlie Flanagan was here earlier this evening. I invited Charlie because he funded that event, Dublin Honours Magdalens. And I mean, if I go through the thank yous for everybody who's here, we will all be here all night, and I know that one of the things that gets people about launches is these long speeches. I just want to say this. I'm delighted to see my colleague Dara here, looking so well this evening. Dara McDonald is a photographer, and we were out in Dublin Bay last Saturday when David Ryan rested his brother Mark's remains in the sea, and it was a rough sea. And Dara was sick, and the professional that he is, he got some brilliant photographs out of it as well, to illustrate what is a very poignant story, to illustrate what we'll be talking about here. Well, it's so long, but also most of us not. One thing I will dare to do is correct Vincent on one matter. It was written about the abuse of children in Artane by Michael Viney in the early 1960s in our own paper, and it was referred to explicitly by Sean Ryan in the Ryan report. But it is a wonder why more people didn't take it up after that. I want to thank Mary for speaking tonight so nicely as she always does. I want to thank Vincent. I mean, I am a very fortunate man to have worked for Vincent in the 1980s. I'm one of that generation, an extraordinary generation. Well, I'm not extraordinary, but some of the people who have come out of his stable back in the 1980s through McGill and the Tribune. I do think Vincent's influence on journalism in Ireland is incalculable, and he's never got the proper recognition for it, in my view. And I thank you. Look at him over there now, trying to be shy and retired. And though I do say one thing, he did encourage me to write this book, and I did acknowledge this in the back, and I put in the brackets when I said encouragement, harassment. Which wasn't fair. It was a nod or a general reflection, if you like, to the popular image, which is quite different actually from the man himself. Thank you, Vincent. Thank you to the wonderful people at Merriam Press, Irish Academic Press. They were such a joy to work from start to finish. Conor, thank you. I think you had to go off for another launch. Peter O'Connell is an extraordinary PR man. He's had been talking all over Africa. Jonathan, who is the literary agent, this gorgeous woman here, our MC for the night, Kira, who's the marketing manager. They are a terrific company, and Wendy Lowe is probably the best editor I've ever come across in the publishing industry. She's terrific, outstanding. And lastly, yourselves. Thank you for turning up here and in such great numbers. I recognise some members of the Roscommon diaspora here. Balladreen. If I might even say the word in your presence, Balladreen, where Mary McAleese is launching this book. It was a long time since we had children walking the streets of Balladreen in poverty. It's not Waterford, County Limerick we're talking about here. No, I am really, really chuffed, delighted, thrilled that such a turnout is beyond, way beyond my expectations. Great to see Kay and Eoghan there, her family friends going back to the early 60s. And, well, if I started going through this list, we'd be here all night, and who wants to be here all night? After the signings are over, we were adjourned across the road to number 37 for drinks or whatever. Anybody who wants to join us is absolutely more than free to do so. So there you are. As Vincent should have said, buy it. And I too would have given Gerard Martin a 10, as I make clear in the book. But there's another man in aspiring young bishop down there who just left the Ballaghaderreen area this year that we regret very much. Bishop Paul Dempsey, who's now an auxiliary in Dublin. Well, Ballaghaderreen's loss is certainly Dublin's gain. That man will have a big future in what the Catholic Church becomes in Ireland. And back to Ciara.
Thank you, Patsy. That's brilliant. So Patsy will be signing books at that table